Let's get to some best bets for Game 5 between the Thunder and the Wolves. We'll go around the horn here. You guys can give me your best bets, and we'll give us the cap. Brandon Anderson, what do you like in Game 5?
Yeah, leaning into the going small thing here. So all four of these kind of relate. Well, three of the four. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, over 8.5 points. We'll play a 15-point escalator at 4-1. iHeart, under 16.5 PRA. One of the guys I think is fading a little bit. Casey Wallace, over 12.5 PRA. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, most assists in the game at a plus number. Give me the plus 130 there.
Nice. Bryan Fonseca, what do you like?
Because Jalen Williams hasn't been rebounding the last couple of games, I'm only going with the assists over. Typically, I like doing the RA, but he's doing the A and not the R. So we're going to go with the A at yeah, I know that didn't sound great. Over 4.5 juiced. I will warn you guys. Don't use your imagination. Only 4.5 juiced. Jalen Williams assist. Matt's face. It's killing me. Also, we're going OKC third quarter, which is available already at minus 1.5 points. And I'm going to sprinkle on a couple alts. Oklahoma City minus 14.5 and minus 19.5, both at plus money. One better than 2-1, another better than 3-1.
A rare instance that you can say it's never a bad idea to just do the A. Let's start with OKC third quarter minus 1.5. OKC alt minus 14.5 here. Bryan Fonseca. I don't know why you're laughing. Third quarter teams. This has been historically like a phenomenal thing about like the title contenders. Watching the third quarter is actually a really good way to do this. Phil Jackson's teams were always elite in the third quarter. It was something I picked up like early in my career. I would just be like, God, why do the Lakers kill all these teams in the third quarter? And then like Kerr's Warriors picked up that same thing, from Brandon Anderson. Third quarter Warriors take me home. The Thunder have kind of picked up on that, and they've been really great in the third quarter. They're the best third quarter team in the NBA this postseason. Why do you like them in this spot minus 1.5, Bryan?
Well, they're the best third quarter team in the NBA. And also, when we saw this series begin in Oklahoma City, those first two games, they beat the shit out of Minnesota in the third quarter both times. In fact, the first game, people forget, the first game they were losing at halftime. And then in the third quarter, they outscored Minnesota by 14. And then in the fourth quarter by 16. So if you want to do second half, I think that could be worthwhile as well. A game where they were losing at halftime and then won by 26. So to me, it's like I'm looking at the line. And for me, I looked at it and I'm like, I'd rather just take the third quarter and I'd rather just take alts. Because I think if the Thunder cover in the third quarter, this can get really bad for Minnesota. Because if Oklahoma City does the thing where it's 6 turnovers and they're getting a double-digit amount of points off of those turnovers, and Minnesota can't hit the shots that they've been hitting the last couple of games, then this could get out of reach. And then the minus 8.5 won't even be all that worthwhile, except, win is a win. But Oklahoma City at that point could be flirting with 15, 20 points, maybe even more. The first two games against Minnesota at home, they won game 2 by 15. They won game 1 by 26. So I think it's worth sprinkling on a couple alts here. 14.5 was plus 204. 19.5 was plus 354. And in pairing that with the third quarter, basically that tells you where I'm heading with this. It's like if Oklahoma City does what they do in the third quarter, where they were better than everyone else in the NBA this year, if they do that, then they could win big. So that's kind of how I'm approaching game 5. And a series where I thought Oklahoma City would win this in 5 or 6. I was leaning 6, but after what we saw and what we've seen so far, I think they put this one away and possibly big.
Home favorites up 3-1 in the NBA playoffs that win. Okay, the average line on those games was 8.5, and the average margin of victory was 12. So a good reason to support the idea that if the Thunder win, they probably win by double digits. A good reason for the alt line there. Brandon Anderson, let's go. I have to make an interjection. So we built a parlay that we're going to talk to a little bit for a Tommy John parlay. And while Brandon was talking about Anthony Edwards rebounds, I looked up and noticed, I was like, wait, where'd my parlay go when I had it set up in the market? While we were talking, SGA props got absolutely nuked. Everything jumped by the assist jumped by a full one, and they took 2+3s off the board entirely. The line is now 7.5 on SGA assists. Someone came in and absolutely destroyed the market while we were talking on this. Like I checked it at multiple books too. It's not just at the market I was at, because I literally had it up at 2 books. It moved on both books simultaneously. So someone definitely likes your SGA most assists in this game line, Brandon. And this is probably a number that likely hasn't moved, but I would actually probably check on that depending on what book you got that at. That's something to kind of keep in mind there. But giving a cap on SGA most assists based off of this information that the market absolutely agrees with you, and this is a great spot for him.
Yeah, this is one I really got wrong in this series. I came in betting to fade Shea as assist leader, so I ended up with a unit and a half on both J-Dub and Ant, who have been solid. J-Dub, we're on the assists. We keep playing that. He's had 5 3 of the 4 games. Ant's had 6 3 of the 4 games. They've been very high floor solid. Shea's the only one that's had a ceiling. He's had 9, 8, 6, and 10 assists. The 6 was the blowout loss to Minnesota when he obviously played way less minutes. Even in that game, he tied for most assists with Ant, even though obviously Minnesota scored literally 42 more points in a franchise record. He still tied and still got half of this bet. The other 3 he won. So he's 3.5 out of 4 on cashing this bet by potential assists, very clearly ahead of those 3. He's at 13 a game, closer to 14 outside of the blowout. J-Dub and Ant are at 10 and 9. It's just a very clear lead on his assists. And it's also supported by what you're seeing on the court, where we're seeing Minnesota trying desperately to say anybody but Shea beat us. And Shea's beating them too. That's the real problem. But Shea is beating them with his passes, especially on threes. I think in the last game, 10 assists for Shea, 8 were for threes. And one of them was to Chet for a 3 that became a 2 because his foot was on the line. That's a lot of points going the other way when you're already scoring 40 points anyways. So I think just Shea betting most assists in the game, if you can do that, and keep an eye out. It's up at 1 book at least already. Some books don't post that until closer to tip. But you're right, Matt. You talked about kind of the steam on the Shea assist over. If you're betting over 7.5 at 8, 8's going to lead the game in almost every scenario. 8 leads every game this series as Shea. So, but we're going to pay the steam on that one. We're getting plus 130 on most assists in the game. And we could get that one at 7 or even 6. Nobody else other than Shea has had more than 6 in the series so far. So I don't see any real reason it stops. Even in Bryan's scenario where we get a potential blowout, which I do think is very in the cards possible, Shea's still going to do his assists along the way and get us to the blowout and get 6, 7. And if they're out, if their guys are out, Minnesota's probably are, and you can still get the most assists that way. So I like the plus 130 there.
Good cap on that. Let's keep with assists and talk to Bryan Fonseca about Jalen Williams over 4.5 assists, the official Action Network prop of the 2025 NBA playoffs.
I almost feel like I don't have to say much. I mean, he gets this, and he especially gets this at home. The only game he hasn't gotten this in the series, and he's gotten at least, well, no, not at least, exactly 5 in 3 of the 4 games, as Brandon likes to point out in this series. He had 2 in game 3, but game 3, as we all established, was an ass whooping and looking increasingly like an outlier. So he didn't need to play a lot, and Oklahoma City just couldn't really do anything in that game. But if you look back, like he always tends to get 5, maybe 7. There are a few 7s in that Denver series. And even though it's juiced, the reason why I like in general betting the RA is because it's a high floor prop for Jalen Williams, because typically, even though he hasn't the last 2 times, he gets in the neighborhood, because usually it's at like 9.5, 10.5, maybe even 11.5. And he's always seemingly, or at least 80% of the time, sniffing around that area. So I think here, this is a good angle for the assists with both him and SGA, because of the way that they're playing off of them. I think Oklahoma City's going to do a better job of generating these 3-point shots from a consistency standpoint. And Jalen Williams is obviously going to be a big part of that. So I like him over 4.5 assists. He's gotten, he's gotten over in 3 of 4 in this series. But even going back to the last couple of games against Denver, he's gotten over in 5 of 6. So it's a good sort of build up to where we're at right now.
Totally agree. Like this play. Brandon Anderson, hit me with, let's do the NAW over 8.5 points in the alt, and then transition to Kaysen. Give me the small ball cap on these 3 props you got.
Yeah, so Nikhil, Kaysen, and iHeart are sort of all the same angle. So if you don't really like the angle, you maybe want to go soft on these or just skip the trio together. Or if you do like it, this could be a nice parlay opportunity for you and play all 3 together as well. I just think that as we're seeing the series go along, we are trending toward the direction of small. We have seen Isaiah Hartenstein come off the bench in the second half, 2 games in a row now. And we're seeing Oklahoma City push the limits even more. We saw J-Dub play some center minutes in the fourth quarter of game 4 with the season, Minnesota season at least, on the line. I think we saw a little bit of Kenrich Williams playing a little bit of center. We're just getting less and less of the big men, or at least getting single big lineups more and more. So for Minnesota, that's Nas and Rudy and a little bit of Randall, the way Randall has played. So we need other bodies out there. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker has, in this series, become a very steady and reliable contributor for them on the wing that they haven't had. They need his defense out there against Shea. It can't be Dante. It can't be some of the other options. When it's not Jaden, they need Nickeil. He has played 25 or more minutes in all but the blowout game. In these playoffs, he now has 6 games with at least 25 minutes. He's averaging 13.7 points a game in those. We bet his threes. I saw in the comments someone asking about threes leader. I would play Nickeil if you haven't played him yet. I think his number is a little bit long. I like him to hit a couple of threes here, but he's also getting some twos. We saw him have some nifty finishes last night. We saw him get to the rim a little bit. I think we can get the points over, even if he has a cold shooting night. He has had games when he's played 25 minutes in the playoffs. I mentioned 6 times. He also has a 17, a 20, and a 23-point game. And we've seen him be hot. 2 of those came in this series. So I think the points line is too low for him, over 8.5 points. And then a little bit on 15 points. He's done that 3 times, twice already this series. That's plus 400 at multiple books. So we'll take the Nickeil escalator on that one. Just the points for Nickeil.
Excellent. Okay. Now,
do you want me to jump into Kaysen and iHeart there too?
Yeah, give me the Kaysen and iHeart.
Okay. Kaysen, similarly, he, I think, is the guy that is just getting the minutes for Oklahoma City. We've done his PRA over a couple of times. I think this one's going to be sweaty. Kaysen's not scoring a ton of points, but in the series, outside the blowout game, he's played 28, 28, and 33 minutes. His PRAs has been 13, 15, 13. So our number is 12.5. It's going to be close, but he does stuff while he's out there. If you look even back further, the previous 2 games in Denver, he was playing 27 plus minutes. And those 2 games also, he also barely snuck over this number, 14 and 15 PRA. So it's outside of the blowout, 5 straight games that he's just barely cleared over the number. That's fine. We'll just barely get our money and we'll take it either way. iHeart under PRA 16.5. He has gone under 20 minutes of game time for the last 5 now. He only did that 3 times all season when he actually played. So that's a pretty clear statement of how they are seeing his usage in the series. He did go over this in game 1. If you remember, he was getting those little side floaters actually fell for him. First quarter, right out of the gate. He had 8 points right away. And then he just basically hasn't been productive since then. He's been under the PRA 16.5 at 16, 12, and 10 the last 3 games. Again, I think this is a sweaty one. These are pretty low numbers. He's going to get some boards when he's out there, but the numbers favor iHeart under the PRA, Kaysen over the PRA. As always, when I play a PRA, it's probably just because it's a volume play, and I think we're going to see more Kaysen minutes and less iHeart minutes. So that's the same sort of case for both.
It's a smart cap based off of the game script. I like that. Brian, do you agree that this is probably going to be more of a small ball lineup? I don't really know what to expect from Dags here in terms of the big small battle. It feels like they've been able to win either way, so it's kind of like whatever Dags wants. So I don't have a really good feel for it, but the number is probably pretty good on that iHeart under.
I like it from the standpoint of I was looking at Rudy Gobert rebound unders just to see what I can get. I don't know if I'm a bet it, but it's something that I've been looking at just in the series in general.
Why?
Because he's not dominating on the rebounds. Like Brandon had a as you call it 7-minute soliloquy on why Anthony Edwards could win like the rebounding championship, if we want to call it that, for this series, which he should not be doing that if Rudy Gobert is on his team. So I'm looking at Rudy Gobert because it was like 8.5, 9.5. I think it's probably 8.5 now in terms of rebounding unders. I'm not saying I'm going to play it, but if the game script is going to be where I'm sort of leaning, this could be like a rough Rudy Gobert game, I think.
It's interesting because it's like we are very actively actually fading one of the best rebounders in the NBA, and not based off of the idea of minutes, because like they're +8 in his minutes, -12 without him in this series. He's got to play. Like they've been better with him on the floor.
He's not rebounding well, though. His rebounding percentage this series and last series has been low. For a guy that we're calling correctly in the regular season one of the best rebounders, he's not getting a lot of the rebounds. Now, maybe that is on purpose. Maybe that is that they're boxing out. You brought that up, that I think that's an iHeart thing also. To me, the rebounding, again, this is what I've watched very closely in the series. I think these big men, iHeart and Rudy especially, I think they are not getting the defensive rebounds to hit these overs. Normally, defensive rebounds is the high floor. When they spike to a high rebound number, it's because they got the offensive rebounds, which is a little bit more kind of just luck of the bounce and it came to you, or luck of the bounce and Rudy missed 17 times and kept getting his own Moses style. You got a couple of those in the last game. The defensive rebounds aren't there. So to me, even unders and alt unders for some of these big men, because if they don't get the offensive rebounds, and we have to assume after we just saw like 37 offensive rebounds in this last game, that's got to be a point of emphasis for both coaches. We can't let that happen again. And if the offensive rebounds aren't there, then I think the big men rebounds overall haven't been there for the series.
Rudy's at under 8.5, fairly heavily juiced. It's in that -140, 145-ish range. For what it's
interesting. It's just really interesting. The difference in their rebound percentage is about 0.9, which isn't nothing, but it's also not huge. One of the things is just like, how about this? When Dante DiVincenzo is on the floor, they have a 51.6 rebound rate. That's horrific. So they basically have two choices. You can make threes or you can rebound, but you can't do both. And when they rebound, OKC makes threes. And when they make threes, OKC rebounds. So
Rudy
that to me feels like this is going.
Rudy had 3 in game 1 in 21 minutes. He had 9 in game 2 in 30 minutes, 7 in 28, and then 9 in 32 in the last 2 games of Minnesota.
But those 2 9s are the offensive rebounds game, right? I think he had 4 in the one and 7 in the other.
4 in one, 7 in the other. You are tracking this very closely. And the other ones and the other ones are just 1 and 2. So basically, if Rudy doesn't get to Brandon's point, if Rudy doesn't get the offensive rebounds, he's probably going under.
If you want to watch the basketball in a brand new way, just watch only rebounds for an entire series. I tell you what, it's a something else entirely.
Okay, our Tommy John ballsy parlay for today. We are going all in on OKC, and we're going all in on their stars. Now, I mentioned that this has gotten nuked because of the Shea stuff. I've had to reconfigure this. It's a +525 5-leg parlay. SGA 7+ assists. SGA 2+ made threes. Shout out Joe Delera and Jim Turvey. Sorry, Gilles Gallant. Good thing you got the under 2.5 live in game 4. Jalen Williams 2+ made threes. Jalen Williams 5+ assists, so over 4.5. And the money line on OKC. Just gonna throw that on there because it's if they have these two performances, how could OKC possibly lose? +525 is your parlay value in the market. So make sure to grab that. That's our parlay for today's episode. My thanks to rebounds analyst Brandon Anderson. My thanks to Bryan Fonseca at Bryan Fonseca NY. You can follow Brandon at Wheaton Brando in the Action Network app. We'll be back today, pregame 6:30, talking Pacers Knicks game 4. Post game, Pacers Knicks game 4. Tomorrow, Brandon Kravitz, Joe Delera, and Kyle Murray will have you set for Pacers Knicks game 5 best bets. And then tomorrow at 6:30, Wolves Thunder game 5 pregame. Thanks for joining us. Hit the like and subscribe button for me. Tell a friend that you like the show. Let us know what you think in the comments at youtube.com/theactionnetwork. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.